Hi there, my name is Miss Murphy and I wanted to give you a bit of a rundown on how to use an outline when writing an essay or any kind of composition. So for this outline, you can see here that I have my assignment prompt. So what is it that you're writing? What did the teacher ask you to write about? Sometimes these are very open-ended and it's any topic, and other times they're very specific. So it's good to get it down there so you remember what your goal is. Then we have a couple main parts. So first we're going to talk about our thesis, which is going to be our main topic statement of our, I'm going to call it essay. Again, it could be any kind of writing, but for this one we're going to go with an essay. So the topic of our essay. And then down here, you're going to see that there's a bunch of different bullet points. So we have the Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3. So these, I'm calling them ideas, 1, 2, and 3. These are going to be the ideas of each paragraph that you're going to have. So your first idea under the first Roman numeral would cover one paragraph, and then your second idea under the second Roman numeral would cover another paragraph, and then your third idea under the third Roman numeral will cover your third and final, your third paragraph about the topic. And then down here we have our restated thesis. So this is going to be your thesis from up here, written in a different way. And that's going to be the beginning of your conclusion paragraph. So again, thesis is going to be our introduction. Then we have paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and our conclusion. So let's get started. I'm just going to do an example assignment, and then I will write out an outline for you to kind of get an idea of how it is that we use these outlines, how we fill them in order to have a better idea of what we're going to be writing in our essays. So for this assignment, I'm going to say that the assignment is to explain how did you feel on your first day of college? And then why? So here we are getting not only what our topic is going to be about, right? It's going to be our first day of college, but it's talking about how we're feeling on our first day of college and why. So usually when you're writing an essay, you're justifying some sort of claim. So it doesn't have to be argumentative, it doesn't have to be a persuasive essay, but to some extent, I want to tell them how I felt, and I need to tell them why. I need to have reasons behind why I felt the way I did to show them this was really how I felt, and I'm not making it up. If this assignment prompt has something to do with a topic that you don't know about, let's say it's not personal, it could be what kind of pet is best for someone with allergies, right? Then you'd have to do some research. You'd have to go into, that's more of an expository essay that you're going to be writing. You'd want to do some research, find some reputable sources on the internet, and you would be able to, once you do your research, fill out all these ideas and examples and details. Now, since this is a narrative, this is going to be more of a narrative essay, this is going to be something on my own personal experience, I don't need to do any research for this, which is helpful. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to start by writing my thesis based upon the bank of knowledge that I have already created. Again, if you had to do a research paper, this would be the information that you've learned from your sources. For me, I'm going to think back. So in order to help me think back, I'm going to insert a picture. Now, if you want to do this when you're doing your composition outlines, go for it. If it's not helpful for you, then don't feel like you have to. This is just a picture of my freshman year dorm room. So I'm just going to put this here, nice and small, just as a little bit of a reminder as I start to brainstorm. What kind of things was I feeling when I moved in, on day 1? What was my main emotion? So, and again, make sure you're deleting these prompts as we're going along. When you are doing your outline, you don't need to keep all these little things in here. They're just to remind you what each section should have in it. Okay, so my thesis statement. I'm going to think that some of the main things I was feeling probably had to do with moving away from home, not knowing a whole lot of people, and maybe all the more responsibilities that I was going to be having now that I was in college. So altogether, I'd say I felt pretty nervous. So to write my thesis statement, I'm going to put those ideas that I just threw out there kind of all jumbled into a nice succinct sentence. So let's see. I felt nervous on my first day of college because remember they're asking us why, right? They're asking us why. Because I did not have friends yet, because I didn't have any friends at school. I was far from home, and I had a lot more responsibility. Yeah, we're going to end it there. I like that. I'm going to reread it, make sure it makes sense. I felt nervous on my first day of college because I did not have friends yet, I was far from home, and I had a lot more responsibility. I think that sounds good. If you notice here, after my because, so I said how I felt, right? I answered the question, how did you feel? And I said I felt nervous, okay? Nervous. Then I wanted to explain why. I'm explaining why after my because. So after I wrote the word because, if you notice, I have 3 ideas. I did not have any friends yet. I was far from home. And I had a lot more responsibility. Making sure that your thesis statement has around 3 ideas in it is going to be helpful for you when you're filling out these outlines. See how I have 3 sections for ideas? If I have 3 ideas in my thesis, it's going to be easier for me to fill in each of these paragraphs well. So, let's take this paragraph by paragraph. I'm going to start with idea number 1. Idea number 1, when looking at my thesis, was that I did not have any friends yet. So, now it's asking for an example. The reason I did not have any friends yet was because my friends from high school went to other colleges. So, if they went to other colleges, that meant that they were not with me when I was going through orientation in my first few days. So why did they go to other schools? They went to other schools because they liked them more, or because they liked them more. Okay, like that's why they chose the other schools that they did. And the reason that I couldn't really talk with them anymore was because they were busy getting ready, getting settled in their schools. We were all starting college about the same time, and so for us, if they were at a different school than I was, then maybe we weren't able to talk as much. So going back to prove the point that I did not have a whole lot of friends when I was starting college, making me feel nervous. So another example is, so not only did some of my friends go to other colleges, I also, some of my friends were younger than me. So what does that have to do with me not having friends at college yet? Well, they were still in high school. And if they're in high school, I will get to that point later in the essay, but I moved away for college, meaning I wasn't home. So if they're still in high school, then they were not around me at the time. And also, they did not understand everything about college life, because things change a little bit when you go to college, and maybe we weren't able to connect as much anymore. So if you notice how my A and my B, my 2 examples of my first idea, I'll back up and justify the fact that I did not have a whole lot of friends on my first day of college, which made me feel nervous. Okay, idea number 1. Check. All set. Now we're going to move on to idea number 2. So this is going to be our second paragraph. Whoops. That's when the undo button's helpful. Okay. All right, let's look back at my thesis. What was the second idea that I came up with? So my second idea was I was far from home. Okay. I was far from home. So that's my second idea. Now, let's see. How can I give some examples to explain to my reader why is it that being far from home made me nervous, or how was it that I was far from home? So I'm going to give some more details about the college that I went to and where my home is. So I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville. Okay, let's give some details. You still don't know where I live, and so we don't really know that that's far from home for me yet. So let's add in that detail. I lived in, that says liked. Always got to go back and check. Lived in New Hampshire. Okay, New Hampshire is pretty far from Steubenville, Ohio. How far, you might ask? Well, that's going to be my second detail. Steubenville is 630 miles from New Hampshire. So if you notice here, these are not necessarily, these are just some more details that are helping to show that why going to Franciscan University of Steubenville meant that I was far from home. And then the second idea I'm going to put here is not only was I far from home, but I didn't have a car. So if I don't have a car, let's see, how does that make it so I'm far from home? Well, that meant I was only able to go home if someone picked me up. Okay, so I can't just drive home from school. But it was pretty far to drive, so it was far to drive, so that wouldn't happen much. So right off the bat, when I began college, I realized that if I went to Franciscan and I didn't have a car, I was going to be far from home because I wouldn't be able to go home frequently because it was so far. And again, this fact that I was far from home made me nervous on my first day of college. Okay, last idea. Our last one in our thesis is I had a lot more responsibility. So let's go ahead and put that here. Ta-da. Okay, I had a lot more responsibility. How, you might ask? Well, let's add some examples to show my reader how I had more responsibility. So my first example is going to be that my mom was no longer taking care of me. But one of the details about the example of my mom no longer taking care of me is going to be that I had to make time to get meals, as well as I had to do laundry, clean, etc. Okay, and if you notice here, so I have etc. You're not going to write etc. in your paper, but I know that maybe when I go to write this, I'll have some more details to add in, but for right now, I just want to get some of the main points down, so I don't need to go through every single responsibility that I had right when I moved to school. So let's see what else we're going to add on to here. So something else, in addition to being independent in home life, I also, my schoolwork was going to be harder. So how is it harder? Well, I had a lot of courses on my course load, and the information being covered was different than in high school. Okay, so There we go. My third paragraph is all set. So I've now gone through and I've taken my assignment and I have made it into a thesis having 3 main ideas. And then I expanded upon each idea to have enough information to fill a good paragraph for each idea. So, as I close out, I'm going to rewrite my thesis from above using different words but the same ideas. So this can honestly be kind of tricky because you're going to be tempted to just write the exact same thing. So a good trick that I've learned is don't even look at your thesis from the beginning and just look at what you've written in your essay. What did you write in your essay? What were your main ideas? By just looking at your essay, you might be able to better come up with new wording for your restated thesis at the beginning of your conclusion. So let's see. The beginning of college was a nerve-wracking time. Yep, there's a hyphen there. There we go. Because, let's see, because I did not know a lot of people. I was far away from home and I had more responsibility than before. Okay, and now we're going to go back and compare. So, my first thesis was, I felt nervous on my first day of college because I did not have friends yet, I was far from home, and I had a lot more responsibility. My restated thesis is, the beginning of college was a nerve-wracking time because I did not know a lot of people, I was far away from home, and I had more responsibility than before. While it still has the same ideas, it's written differently enough that it's not copy and pasted. So, now we're all set. We have our thesis, our 3 paragraphs, and our restated thesis. So our thesis is going to be used as the last sentence in your introduction paragraph. So you're going to begin your introduction paragraph with some broad topics about maybe big changes in life and how those can make people feel. And then I would narrow down and say, on my first day of college, this is how I felt. Then I would go into the details. I'm going to take the ideas from each of these paragraphs, put them in order because I've ordered them nicely and logically. And then when I start my conclusion, you start your conclusion with your restated thesis. So I'll put that sentence as my first sentence in my conclusion, my final and 5th paragraph. And then I'll go again into some more general ideas about change and transition. So I hope this video was helpful and you are ready to get going with your outlines. Happy writing!